The expression of the old man changed at my words. Demon King of Salvation? It was difficult to read the exact emotions due to the old man's intricately folded wrinkles. The old man was first surprised, then angry, and finally looked admiring. To be exact, every emotion was contained in one expression. That's right, you are. I see. The old man seemed to know me. I didn't expect anyone in the Gourmet Association other than Persephone to know about me, yet he had a surprising awareness. Can I ask for your modifier? The old man gave an unknown smile instead of answering my question. Do you like the coat I made? Huh? The coat you are wearing. I reflexively looked out at my white coat. Infinite Dimension Space Coat. It was a coat I was awarded after defeating Myung-Il-sung. The name of the constellation who made this coat was Mass Production Maker? The old man laughed at my surprised tone. Oh, I am called that. He pointed his thumb at himself, and I was slightly discouraged. The Mass Production Maker. He was mentioned in the list of constellations who had the greatest influence on the Starstream scenario. It was difficult to describe his combat ability as being of the highest level, but he was in existence with a close connection to many nebula and the Bureau. To make matters worse, I killed Myung-Il-sung, who was the incarnation of the Mass Production Maker in the 5th scenario. You don't have to look like that. I won't eat you. The Mass Production Maker seemed to have noticed what I was trying to say. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Don't be alarmed. It's common in the Starstream. He wasn't the type of person I was interested in anyway. He had no guts, had a weak will, and always searched for the easy way. I felt a complex amount of emotions. There was relief that the Mass Production Maker didn't care about it, and disillusioned that even a constellation like the Mass Production Maker thought of incarnations as tools. I pretended to be calm. Thank you. Don't thank me for that. No matter how lousy, he was still my incarnation. By the way, I saw the story you made. My story? Yes, you are great at leading the scenario in unexpected directions and creating a mess. Thanks to you, I haven't been bored for a while. I gave you 5 stars. I didn't know if it was praise or mockery, but I thanked him. This is your first time here. Who introduced you? The Queen of the Underworld. The eyes of the Mass Production Maker shone. That old hag. Doing this thing through all means, bringing a new entrant like you at a time like this. I seemed to know what he meant, but I deliberately trembled. What's happening at the Gourmet Association? Oh, they're always doing things. Rather, did that old hag abandon her new entrant to see what you could do? In any case, she is an Olympian. Come on, I'll give you a brief introduction. Unexpectedly, things were going well. I followed behind the Mass Production Maker and looked around. I shouldn't forget my purpose for coming here, just because there were many spectacular attractions. I came to recruit constellations to help the Demon King of Salvation. Let's see. The first thing was to talk to the constellations. Oh, you know that drunkard over there, right? He is Thor. The vigorous and stern woman over there is Vakarine. I felt a thrill every time the Mass Production Maker called out the name of a constellation. The real names of constellations had the power to attract their attention. The problem was they might like it or be angry. I sometimes called out the names of constellations like Persephone, but not like this. They didn't like me very much, so I can't introduce you to them. They scared just by me approaching. In fact, Thursday's Thunder and Morning Star Goddess seemed to be avoiding the Mass Production Maker. I roughly knew the cause. They don't know what good stories are. In any case, I felt that the reaction of the constellations was noticeably different just by moving with the Mass Production Maker. It was also easy to enter the center of the banquet hall, which was difficult to get into before. However, now everyone would run away before I could even speak. I remembered Asmodeus was a member of the Gourmet Association. Where is he? It looks like the main event is going to begin. The mass production maker smiled alone and grabbed my sleeve. I sat at a nearby table, and the guide immediately gave me food. Eyes of the Ninth Circle, Great Sage Barbados. I took a quick look at the food before putting down my fork. Several of the surrounding constellations laughed at me. They seemed to be despising the fact that I barely touched the food and couldn't eat it. The mass production maker just ignored the gazers and chewed on the eyeballs. This has a good taste. Look, that friend is today's host. A light lit up the stage and the host appeared. The face was familiar. It was the constellation who pushed past me earlier. It was a young lady dressed in a gorgeous gothic lace dress with a cute face. Gourmet Association members, hello. I am today's host, Euphrosyne. I heard the name and knew who she was. The goddess of joy and celebration, Euphrosyne. She was a constellation belonging to the Olympus constellation. Along with the applause, some constellations lost their dignity and screamed, "Oh, Euphsy, over here!" To be precise, it was the mass production maker next to me. Suddenly, a memory from Ways of Survival came to mind. In the original novel, there was a time when Euphrosyne emerged as the host of the Gourmet Association festival. At that time, Hyuk. Thank you for attending while you're so busy. Thank you for the owner of Oro Castle, Immeasurable Austerity, for lending us this place. Maybe he killed her? There are 2 main events today. Before that, I would like to introduce a special guest. Maybe you've heard of these constellations. Today's guest is from a planet that's emerging as a hotspot recently. I had an ominous feeling as firecrackers burst in one corner of the stage. Please clap for Anna Croft, a prophet from Earth. The noisy constellations fell silent simultaneously. I saw Anna Croft climbing the stairs to the main stage. I see. I seem to know why Anna Croft came to the Gourmet Association at this time. She truly was a woman I couldn't like. Anna Croft looked at the audience with her uniquely calm gaze and greeted her with a bright smile. It's nice to meet you, constellations of the Gourmet Association. I am Anna Croft, an incarnation of the nebula Asgard. She looked dignified, but the constellations were already frowning from the moment she opened her mouth. The Gourmet Association has really fallen. I can't believe the food is talking on the stage. The star stream is degenerating these days. This was the Gourmet Association. It was a banquet of carefully selected stories for the gourmet constellations. It was a natural story, but one of the fresh incarnations were the main ingredients of the story. Anna Croft came to this place knowing it. I might be lacking, but I am the host of the first event. That's why this woman was scary. I don't know what food you've prepared. Take it out now! The atmosphere heated up, and it was Euphrosyne who tried to quickly intervene. Now, everyone, don't be too excited. Isn't it okay to listen to the words of the prey? Shouldn't you have some patience with your food? Euphrosyne smiled in a cheerful manner, and the agitated constellations paused for a moment. The clever Anna Croft didn't miss this gap. In recent years, the star stream is flooded with obvious stories. The provocative beginning caused the constellations to focus on her. Anna Croft continued speaking. The returnees, reincarnators, sword masters, ninth circle magicians, even the same prophets. It all starts from being stronger than others. There was a faint smile on Anna Croft's face. It is the reality of today's star stream, which is flooded with stories that are created for the sake of fleeting fun. The constellations looked impressed. It was as if they were amazed that their food was telling a story. However, Anna Croft's story was just beginning. It wasn't like this before. At the very least, the trend was different during the first generation stories. As if possessed, the constellations waited for Anna Croft's next words. In those days, the constellations loved stories. It's because the stories were worthy. The Dokabes gave a theme, and the constellations explored the form and aesthetics of it. At that time, the stories definitely reached the realm of art. She was a truly scary woman. I could say this from the position of an incarnation. The constellations looked nostalgic at Anna Croft's words. Persephone could be seen among them. All of them were constellations who survived those days. Interesting. Then you have a story that can satisfy our appetite? The person speaking was a demon king leaning against a corner of the hall. Anna Croft wasn't panicked by the provocation and smiled. That's right. I'm going to give you back the lost first-generation stories. The Constellation's expressions changed. Everyone doubted their ears. You don't like sword masters or ninth circle magicians. You like stories with a theme of blood, sweat, tears, and effort. I came here today to present you with such a story. The Constellations reacted in different ways to Anna Croft's words. Some shouted about how an incarnation was making a fool of them, while others were interested in what she was saying. There were also constellations who responded skeptically, just like the mass production maker by my side. She's telling a stupid story. The current Gourmet Association won't find such stories interesting. Isn't that right? I agree. There were certainly some great stories among the first generation, but times had changed. The constellations who already experienced stimulating stories wouldn't be touched by stories that mimicked the first generation. Still, Anna Croft couldn't be unaware of this. She was the most competent incarnation in all of Ways of Survival. I recalled the parts of Ways of Survival that were about her. In the original novel, Anna Croft never held such an event at the Gourmet Association. However, there must be something similar to this. At this moment, someone grabbed my shoulder. Demon King of Salvation,